Okay, so let's jump right in. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a workers' compensation case. And it's a situation where, at first glance, it seems like everything went all right. But there's kind of a hidden problem that we want to unpack.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those situations that can be a little tricky because on the surface, it looks like a success story.
Right. Like,
Hmm.
yay, the worker got their claim accepted.
Yeah.
But then you dig a little deeper.
And you start to see where things might have gone a little differently.
Exactly. And the big thing that jumps out to me right away is this. The worker's injury was accepted. It was acknowledged as work-related. You'd think that's the best-case scenario.
Right, that's what you'd hope for, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it means you're eligible for benefits. Things like covering your medical expenses, getting some of your lost wages back while you're recovering.
All really important stuff when you're dealing with an injury.
Absolutely. But, and here's the catch, this particular worker wasn't represented by a lawyer during this whole process.
And that seems to be where things took a bit of a turn, right?
Yeah, you see, the worker ended up missing the hearing. And because they weren't there and didn't have a lawyer there to advocate for them, only one of their injury sites was officially recognized.
Ooh, that's a problem. So, like, what kind of impact could that have down the line?
Okay, so imagine this. You're at work and you slip and fall.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Right. And let's say you hurt your back and your neck in the fall. But because your back is killing you, you're focused on that.
Yeah, you're not really thinking about anything else.
Exactly. So maybe you only mention the back injury to the doctors and on the paperwork and all that.
Makes sense.
Then fast forward a bit, you start having neck problems, and it turns out they're related to the fall.
Oh.
But because you didn't have a lawyer from the get-go, making sure every single injury was documented,
You might be out of luck.
you might be out of luck. Getting compensation for the treatment you need for your neck could be a real uphill battle, all because it wasn't properly documented from the beginning.
Oh, wow. Okay, I get it now. So let's go back in time a bit and pretend this worker did have a lawyer right from the start. What would they have done differently, especially in those initial stages?
Well, first off, a good lawyer would have sat down with you right away and really dug into what happened during the incident. Like, they'd ask about every ache and pain you felt, not just the obvious stuff.
Really go into detail.
Exactly. Because they know what types of injuries often go together. They'd be looking for any red flags, any little thing that might suggest a more complex injury.
They've seen it all, right?
Exactly. So they'd make sure everything from back pain to neck pain, every little thing was documented clearly and thoroughly.
It sounds like they'd really be looking out for your best interests.
That's the idea. They're not just focused on the immediate problem. They're thinking long term, making sure you're protected down the road.
I see. So they'd be there at the hearing too, right?
Absolutely. Advocating for you, making sure all your injury sites are presented, and fighting to get you the maximum benefits you're entitled to.
Not just a portion, but everything.
Everything. That's the key.
And this reminds me of something mentioned in the case. There's a service called lawyerlanding.com. Do you know about that?
Oh, yeah. They're a great resource. They connect workers in New York with experienced lawyers for free.
For free?
Yep. And in New York, workers' compensation cases work on a no-fee basis. So you don't have to pay anything up front.
No consultation fee, no retainer.
Nope. The lawyer only gets paid if they win your case.
So it's like you get this expert legal advice and support, but there's no financial risk on your end.
Precisely.
I mean, it just goes to show how important it is to have legal representation in these situations.
Yeah, you're not just dealing with paperwork. You're dealing with your health, your livelihood.
Right. And it's not just about the immediate problem. It's about making sure you're protected in the long run.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This case is a perfect example of that. You know, it really drives home the point that having a lawyer on your side can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And, it makes me think, if we're hesitant to navigate the complexities of workers' compensation alone,
Good point.
why do we often face other life challenges like contract negotiations, real estate deals, even things like that, without seeking expert advice?
That's a great question.
Sometimes early guidance can truly change the whole outcome. It's definitely something to think about.
Food for thought. Well, on that note, thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, when in doubt, talk to a lawyer.